A note before we get started, today's special episode does have a few instances of swear words and a few mentions of sexual activities. So content warning if that is an issue for any of our listeners. Thank you so much and enjoy this very special episode.
It's always Halloween.
No matter what hour your clock strikes, here it's always Halloween. And I'm always your haunted host, Luce Tomlin Brenner. Welcome to a very special Halloweekend episode. As a bonus treat for all of my lovely Luceo lanterns out there, I brought in one of my favorite people in the world to help answer some of your most burning witchy questions. Everyone, please give a warm, hearty Halloween welcome to Stephen Ray Morris. Hello.
I don't know why I have to give myself fake applause every time.
There's real
Please
applause.
Yay! Oh, thank you. That's the equivalent of the like watery eyed emoji. Like
I know. I'm always like clapping keeps me alive. I am like Tinkerbell. If you don't clap, I will die.
I'm so excited to be here and geez, I remember when you were starting this podcast, and it's just seeing it thrive. It's just made me so happy.
Thank you. Well, you're a huge reason I was able to get it started. I think you might have been the first person that I told this idea to maybe 2 years ago. Wow. And I just kept bouncing ideas and thoughts off of you. And you're like, yeah, that's great. Go with it. Go with it. And you kept checking in with me about it. And I just, people have a lot of ideas, and sometimes it's hard to know which are the right ones to run with. So I really appreciate you backing this from the very beginning.
Oh my gosh. I mean, listeners, obviously your listeners know they've been listening, so they don't need to, it's just like Halloween. Luce, you're the best at it. You're the best at Halloween.
Thank you.
That's what I was trying to say.
Stephen, you and I have been friends for so long. I think you're one of my oldest LA friends. You and I used to produce a incredible live storytelling comedy show together at the Virgil in Los Angeles called Radio Picture Show. That's how we met.
Yes. Wow. I love that we're old friends now. That feels really nice, actually, to hear that.
I know, right? And well, it's been at least 6 years, if not 7.
Wow.
I know. And for those of you who don't know Stephen Ray Morris, he is the audio engineer of the Juggernaut, My Favorite Murder. And he has his own incredible podcasts, the Purrrrcast, which is on the Exactly Right network, which I've had the immense pleasure of being on twice with 2 of my kitties, with Thunder and the late, great baby kitty.
Yes.
And then See Jurassic Right, which is the fan podcast for anybody who likes not just Jurassic Park, but dinosaurs, archaeology, film. It's so in-depth, and you go in so many different exciting directions that are also like very educational. We have an episode coming out this weekend together.
Yeah. It's look, we've been able to encompass every topic in relation to our friendship. And so I'm finally glad we got to focus on babes and just that world. And it's it's one of those things that has been like part of the things that we love. So it was actually like listening back to it when I was editing, it was just like, oh yeah, like this is such a fundamental part of a lot of the things that we're interested in.
Yes, exactly. So everyone, after this, if you don't have your Luce and Stephen fill, then you must check out the See Jurassic Right episode, Hot Babes and Dinosaurs in Films.
Yes, I'm so excited.
2 of our favorite things.
Yes.
So today we're going to take some listener EEEEKmails, and first, I would like to just ask some of our favorite questions. So, lanterns, they write in and they call in all the time with different advice that they need, recommendations that they're looking for or giving, and then just really great stories about trick or treat, costumes, cooking, anything you could possibly think of related to Halloween. But we get some questions that come up again and again and again. So I want to ask you them because I know that it will spark all of our sweet lanterns and they'll be very excited to hear what you think.
Oh no, I love it. I'm excited. Again, I love Halloween. I feel like maybe I'm not, sometimes I don't feel like as I'm like ready to like wear a 12-foot skeleton and walk around like I'm in a giant like kaiju suit, like I'm not like I in my heart I'm there. And so even though I may not seem like it, that's truly where I am in my heart at all times.
Oh, I love that. So tell me then, did you have a very Halloween childhood? Did you get to trick or treat, dress up, have parties? What was it like for you growing up?
I think I had a pretty typical Halloween trajectory of somebody who truly lives it most days during the year. It's always Halloween again,
Exactly.
and yeah, I think you know what like why I'm like thinking about it more. With my face, you can't see it, but it's just like, yes, Halloween. What is Halloween to me? But I think what makes somebody who gets into Halloween or like stays into it, I should say, because I think like dinosaurs and like some other things from our childhood, I think there was that notion, you have to grow up or at least like I felt like we grew up with that mentality where, yeah, maybe
Yes.
when I was in high school, I didn't dress up in Halloween. But when I went to college and I went to UC Santa Barbara, where it's expected to have at least 4 or 5 costumes a year, I got very into it again in college. But yeah, as a kid, I think it's having that variation of costume. I was a Velociraptor from Jurassic Park. I
Ugh,
was the Black Ranger in the costume,
yes.
and I was I was Tommy Lee Jones from Men in Black. Like my
Ah,
mom sprayed the spray paint and everything in my hair. Like I
oh,
love
so
that
you
idea.
looked
Like
old?
yes, yeah, I was like a young, like, I was like an old Tommy Lee Jones, but as like a 10-year-old.
Did you do like lines on your face?
I don't think my mom did. I don't think she wanted me to go that far. But and then see, to me, what I think maybe epitomizes more in like that pivot or like this world of Halloween is that in 6th grade, which felt like the last year we did Halloween in school until college, because junior high school we had to wear uniforms. So I went as a mailman, and my
Ah.
mom like pinned a little dog to my leg, like I was
Oh,
being
that's
chased.
cute.
I like just the most wholesome costume of like, I don't want to be a superhero or,
It is
like
really
Star
wholesome.
Wars. Like I'll be a generic mailman
Yeah, just
as
like
my
a
last.
public figure.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. Save the the mail right now. But
yeah, just I'm here to help my neighborhood out.
yeah, so I think that like the fact that that was my last Halloween costume until like college, I think is actually really funny now that I'm just kind of, yeah, it's hitting me now. I'm like, really? That was my last costume? I kind of love that until college.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, my last costume, I was Katie Heron of Mean Girls stole my
Ooh.
look. I was a
Oh.
zombie bride or an ex-wife.
Oh, in 6th
I
grade or in junior high school or high
and I
school?
went so my last year trick-or-treating was 8th grade.
Oh,
And
cool.
my mom and I wanted to be like a zombie bride, and my mom and I went to the Goodwill and we found this incredibly elaborate wedding dress for like $20. It was very 80s, big puffy sleeves, lace, beads, really heavy like silk. And we got it. She made me a veil, and then I did this like death makeup, like white and green and purple, and she put white in my hair and like moss and cobwebs in my hair.
Have I seen
And
this picture? Have you take? Do you have a picture of you as this? I feel like I've seen you as a zombie bride, but
I
I might
don't
just
think
be
I've
my mental belief.
actually shared this picture before. I have a it's I've never hearted it. I've never put it in my favorites in my phone. And it's one of those things that I can't find it until I find it.
Oh
Do you know what I
no.
mean? I
Yes.
know.
Oh, that you say that because that mailman costume, I know I have a photo of it on like a Insta camera that was printed out and is in a box somewhere.
Oh, that like makes me insane. I keep thinking like I need to go through my 50,000 photos in my phone and make Halloween folders and like so I can find everything. But the amount of work that takes, I don't know when. I'm like, oh, if only I would have been organized back in 2011 when I first got an iPhone.
Actually, it's funny that you say that because I actually have been starting to go through my phone and break up things into categories because if I'm going to be getting a new phone soon, which I actually really do need to, I was like, well, I want things to be in folders because I feel like if I transfer it over, it's all going to be like one lump sum. So I'm like making the folders now, and there's probably like 3 or 4 Halloween related photos
Ah,
or folders. Like, okay, here's Halloween 2018, and like here's Halloween from childhood, and here's that kind
that's
of thing.
amazing. Oh, you did it. Okay, well, guess what? I have a treat. I did find it,
Oh my gosh,
and
that made me gasp.
I'm sending it to you now, and then I'm gonna put it up on the Instagram so that
All
people
right.
can also see it.
I feel like I have seen this. Or maybe I just imagine you as a zombie bride at all
I
times. I don't know.
maybe I tweeted it at one time because ever since Mean Girls came out, because this costume is from like 1998, and of course Mean Girls came out in 2004, so kind of close together. I was very resentful because I was like, no, that was my costume. But everyone's like,
Well,
wow, so clever.
well, what I love about this, and again, listeners follow It's Always Halloween on Instagram, to check out these pictures. What I love is the red under your eyes. That's like what really sells it for me.
Right?
And
That was my
and
mom's idea.
oh, really? That's amazing. And then the high neck, but with the sheer. I don't know. For some reason, that just really like it sets the tone. Like this person is, it's that world of Halloween of like the beautiful bride, but she's dead, and coming back to eat you. Like,
Oh, I just loved that. That was something that really intrigued me from a young age, like beauty, death, decay, all mingled together. It's something
yeah,
that still I find very aesthetically pleasing. It's that like run away from, but then sort of double back and run towards it. The push pull of living life and having death be all around you.
yeah, oh yeah.
so so it sounds like your mom was very supportive of you trick-or-treating. Did you say the last time you trick-or-treated was in 6th grade?
I think so. I
Wow.
can't. I don't remember. Maybe because like I remember more again this idea of like we would we would like almost do a trick or treating around our elementary school, like go to different classrooms and
Oh,
get
that's cute.
candy.
Oh, I've
And
never
so
heard that before. That's
really,
cool.
oh
Yeah, we
okay,
didn't do that.
yeah. So we would dress up and go to school like every year, and then we would actually do like a long turn on the catwalk again of like of our back like blacktop play area. Like everyone would walk around and like show off their
Oh,
Halloween costumes.
oh, I love that. We did do a Halloween parade where every grade would be broken up and put in order. And then we walked around the entire block of our elementary school. And that was cool because all the parents came out and all the people who lived around our elementary school came out. And I have some pictures from that parade. I feel like Halloween parades are where I learned how to like strut and show off.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What if that is the origin story for a lot of people? A lot of models are like, for Halloween, I just walked out, just showed what I was wearing. I don't know why this
Like
model's
immediately
British, but
all models are British/Australian.
yeah, yeah.
It's a posh spice.
Yeah, exactly. I remember too, there was maybe a year or two where they like even got together like a Halloween maze or like an evening event at the school. But I mean, mostly it was trick or treating. Here's one thing that I wonder if other people have this, where I lived in a neighborhood with no kids,
Hmm.
and other than a few Mormon neighbors, but they were a lot of the kids were older. There was my sister had there were like obviously I was friends with girls growing up, but my friend with my sister, but like there wasn't like the boys neighborhood thing or whatever. I
Oh,
didn't have
sure.
that.
Oh my gosh, that's so tragic. So you couldn't like run around with neighborhood kids.
No, so and yeah, and then I was like Mormons love Halloween actually. Brenna can
I
attest
didn't
to
know
that.
that.
But there's more haunted like mazes and like haunted escape rooms in like Salt Lake City than I think a lot of other cities. Like they might be one of the most. Like
That's fascinating.
they're permanently like on the skyline. Like I remember I went to the last time I went to Salt Lake. There's literally like a Sauron style like dungeon like tower that's like just part of a downtown Salt Lake that is a haunted maze that's like open all year round.
Wait, have you been to it?
No, we just drove by it going to a different theme park. But anyway, not to get too off topic, but the yeah, so like my neighborhood was very quiet. So as I got older, it was getting quieter. As it was basically just all old people, and then like maybe their kids like moved out and moved away. And so yeah, by the time 6th grade happened, like Halloween was kind of like over in our neighborhood, if that makes sense.
Ah,
Because like less
this is
people were
heartbreaking.
celebrating. So,
Ah.
but I feel like when my dad moved from LA to Orange County after my parents split, then in that neighborhood there was more like Halloween festivities. So then I got to kind of like hang out with neighborhood kids and stuff, but we weren't necessarily trick-or-treating, but we were kind of like seeing the neighborhood filled with people, kind of ET style.
Right. Wait, so where did you go to other neighborhoods for trick or treat, or did all the adults just, engage for you?
I believe like, I mean, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that like my dad and my stepmom at the time, like, I don't think they did Halloween parties. I just felt like friends were coming over to either like watch movies or, I mean, I guess just watch movies or play video games, and like trick-or-treaters would come to the door. Yeah, I honestly haven't thought about this in a long time. So it's more like I'm like trying to piece together like what did I actually
Wow.
do? But yeah, I think it was a lot of just like hanging with friends and watching scary movies. But then of course the benefit of like there was just a lot of candy around.
Wait, but when you were little, you didn't trick or treat?
Oh no, sorry, I meant I trick-or-treated until like 6th grade.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I
But
got
yeah,
turned around. I got so shocked at the idea of growing up in a neighborhood with no kids. It like broke my little heart.
yeah, but it was more of like as the older people got older and died, like there was just, or like as they got older and less like into, like it just was one of those things where it was like, okay, like here's a house with candy, here's a house with candy, lights out, no candy, lights out, no candy, here's a house with candy. And then it was just like, no like lights out, lights out, lights out, like that
Oh,
kind of thing.
yeah. Oh, that's rough. So, did you and your sister like to trade candy at all? This is something
Yes.
I hear this from siblings all the time that they had this elaborate trading game, which, I don't have siblings, but I would do that with my friends. But when I
Yeah.
got home, the benefit was then it was all mine. Like I didn't have to like
Yeah.
keep doing it.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I distinctly have memories of like laying candy out, organizing it by, type, whether
Yes.
it's, chocolates and things like that. And then, like sugary kind of things, sour things. My sister was like, excuse me, my sister was like more peanut butter and sour. So,
Mm.
and I
Hmm.
am allergic to peanut butter. So I just like, all that stuff, like the Reese's Pieces, like
Oh,
all that
wow.
stuff
She got all the
went.
Reese's? That was always
Yeah,
my
yeah.
hot ticket item. I'd line up those little individual cups and I'd be like, oh my God, this year I got 5. Last year was only 4. And I would
No,
just feel like king of the world.
No, it was nice because my sister and I had such very different tastes in our candies. So like we basically, it was like a racket, almost, where it's like we just got everything that we wanted because it was like, okay, cool, I'll take the Milky Ways, I'll take the Skittles, Starburst, pink and red only, and that kind of stuff,
Ugh.
Necco wafers, candy
Oh my
corn.
God. If Necco wafers came my way, I was so bummed. I was like, how dare you hand these out? These are an ancient food stuff from the 1900s.
I appreciate like practical military level. Like, look, here's candy, but we're not going to make it too sweet for you because that would just be. This is like a World War II level kind of
Yes.
like. Let's be sensible here. Like, it's like even British. Like, come on, let's not go nuts. Like, it's like
Yeah,
mildly sour.
here is your little chewables for your tummy in a little bit of wax paper. Like,
I love it.
did you ever get change or the flip
Razor
of that?
blades.
Oh, I'd be very shocked. You know, all of those stories are very overblown. I'm not
Yes.
sure. I feel like you might have talked about this on My Favorite Murder, but that like there actually are no linked stories to children dying through consuming Halloween candy that was from a stranger. That the only
No.
people who died were like because their family members tried to kill them.
Yep, that's 100% true. Georgia covered the Halloween like candy myth
That's
thing like
right.
probably 2 or 3 years ago now at this point. But yeah, that was very shocking because I'm a, I would consider myself a 90s kid. Like being born in 87, I wasn't really like around for the 80s in that sense.
Right.
So,
Fully trick or
but
treating in the 90s.
yeah, fully trick or treating in the 90s. And it was one of those things that you heard, but I definitely don't feel like any parents were like there wasn't some parent that's like, let me check your candy. Like my parents, like my mom or my dad were just like, oh yeah, wasn't that crazy that people were that apparently was happening a long time? All
You
right.
had very reasonable parents. I was not allowed to eat any of my candy until each piece was inspected. My mother,
Whoa.
love her, but there's nothing my mom's more into than a moral panic. Like,
Oh
she's
my
just like,
God.
ooh, is there something I should be concerned about? Is this a cultural issue that's going to affect me directly? Yeah, lots of things like that growing up that I had to be scared of. And I had to unlearn as I moved out on my own. I'm like, oh, none of like the dishwasher's not going to explode. Okay, cool. Like nobody is sitting in my back seat or under my car. Okay, cool. Like,
Marijuana is not a gateway drug.
yeah.
I
Another,
was recently listening to the Scruff McGruff tapes on
uh,
YouTube, and they talk a lot about marijuana being a gateway drug, which is very silly. But
I mean,
you know,
yes, the entire DARE program is absolutely perched on that idea as well.
well,
But
Nate, I was going to say, did you see a study that they were like, Dare literally did not do anything?
yes, I have seen that study. And I was going to say, DARE also contributed to the myth that there might be drugs in your candy, because that was
Oh,
also something they would talk about. It'd be like, some people put LSD in their candy. And as I
I
got
wish.
older, I was just like, wait, no person who does drugs or sells drugs is going to waste that amount of money on just a joke on children. The best
Yeah,
kind of joke, the joke on the children.
yeah.
They're just not going to do it's so silly just from an economic standpoint. Like,
I know, really. Yeah, what 20 like I remember if I had mushrooms when I was like 27, I'm not going to give it to some kids. That
and
was
you
hard to
wouldn't even
come
get
by.
to see. It's not even a good prank to like give it to them and then be like, "Well, hope you have a great weekend with these, but I'm never going to see you again or know how this
Yeah.
happened." Like
Yeah.
bad prank from top to bottom. All right. Well, let's get into I have called some really fun eek mails. So, how would you like to respond to some of these with me?
Oh, I would love to. I'm not sure how qualified I am, but you know what? I'll give the best of my experience and acknowledge if it's out of my realm of expertise, and we can go
Yeah.
from there.
Yes. No, it'll be very fun. A lot of these are people just wanting to share stories and hear what we think about them, and we
Yes.
get to weigh in with our own experiences. So, one of my favorite things about getting emails and calls is just getting to learn about the diverse experiences that people from all over the world are having with the holiday. And I've learned so much and I've gotten so many great ideas. And it feels like a little Halloween party like every week. So I hope that you get that vibe from it too.
Ah, that's so exciting. And I mean, again, literally just within this duration of our conversation, and we've known each other for a long time. This has already sparked so many like, wait, what was that as a child? Or, oh, my experience was different. That's so cool. Now I want to know what other people's experiences are.
Yes, right? Okay, well, hold on to your hat, your very specific costume post office man hat.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so the subtitle or the subject of this one is A Very Old Halloween.
Ooh.
And it's entitled to Ms. Brenner. It's very
Ooh.
formal. Thank you. I have a story for you about a Halloween from 70 years ago.
Whoa.
Maybe, I know, right? This is, I think, before I get ahead of myself, I think this might be the oldest story that we've gotten. So that's exciting.
Ooh, when
Okay.
Halloween was invented. Just
Yeah, right. Maybe more of a vague memory than a story. That's okay. It works. It was the early 1950s. I forget which exact year. I was a child at the time, and my two siblings and I dressed up for Halloween as a cat, a mouse, and a piece of cheese. Oh,
oh, that's
gosh,
so
that's so
cute.
cute. These costumes were handmade by my mother. We always walked in order, the cat chasing the mouse chasing the cheese. Oh, the
That's
cheese.
dedication.
Yeah, right? I mean, I feel like kids, it's hard to corral them, to like get
Yeah.
them to do that specifically. Like, wow, you guys were
Well,
so
also,
committed.
that also to me, and again, this is my, not necessarily like I'd have to think about it more, but it almost feels like, yeah, the conceit of like part of your costume isn't just like wearing a thing; it's also like doing a thing. Like
Yes.
I feel like nowadays there's people do that more often, where it's like, okay, I'm a costume, but in this state is like how I'm going to operate. Whether it's like, I mean, I'm failing to find examples, but maybe like if you're like dressed up as like any of the Mario characters from Mario Kart, it's like you all have to be together the whole time or something like that.
I have a story for you, actually, of my seventh grade Halloween costume, which I think seventh grade was when I became like, I always loved Halloween, but I became like obsessive about like, here's how we're going to do it this year, gang.
Ooh.
I had read Macbeth, and I was like, we should be the witches to my two best friends named Katie Parrish and Katie Christian. I was like, I know it's weird. There's two names actually really go together. I was like, let's be the weird sisters from Macbeth. And not only was I like, we're going to do this costume, but so that everybody knew we weren't regular witches, what we did when we rang the doorbell is instead of saying trick or treat, I made them say double, double, toil and trouble, which is what they say in Macbeth.
Mhm.
And you have never seen more confused looks in your life. It's like you change one part of the social contract and people totally forget what's going on. Like,
Yeah, well, but I feel like that was part of. I felt like when we were getting older, like a lot, like a fun, like maybe you've watched South Park for the first time. You're like kind of trying to be edgy as like a kid. You're like,
yeah.
"Ooh, I'm gonna say Merry Christmas instead of saying Happy Halloween when the door
Yeah.
answers." Like this
Yeah, like I'm
edgelord bullet,
snarky.
like your baby's first edgelord, like shit. That like stop. Just say Happy Halloween. Don't be a dick.
Baby's first edgelord.
Like at least like yours is in character and is part of like the thing. Like I want to make that clear. Like yours is a good version of that. Whereas like
Yes.
I remember be like, but I'm such a scaredy cat. So like I would be like I would say it like quietly while my other friends, were doing it.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, this was me wanting to be like very creative. So
No, I
the
love
other
that.
thing I made them do is we got a bunch of these little plastic snakes and I insisted that we hand like a trick or treat kind of thing, right? So like they give us a treat, we give them a trick, we give them a little plastic snake.
Oh, I love
So
that.
yeah, it was fun, but people acted so confused. And it really made me think like we could be doing so much more with trick or treating. Everyone is in these rote roles, just repeating like automatons. Like, let's mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So, all right, well, getting back to the eek mail. Okay, we walked in order, the cat chasing the mouse chasing the cheese. So cute. The cheese was just a big yellow triangle with holes drawn on it, and it didn't fit into my father's 51 Ford. So we had to walk 16 blocks to show our costumes to my grandmother, trick or
Oh,
treating the whole way. And then, and the treats back then were mostly cookies and brownies. Oh, wow.
whoa.
Fancy. One
Yeah.
house gave candy apples and it ruined the inside of my pillowcase.
Oh no.
I
Gosh, I'm
wish.
trying to think. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go on.
I was going to say, I'm trying to think now, and I wonder if your listeners would share stories, like whether writing in more mail or on social, like stories of where like a candy like ruined. Like I'm just thinking of those wax teeth
Oh, so disgusting.
or this. Oh, I love those.
Oh,
Like
really?
I would like
Sorry,
chew on
sorry.
the. No, no, I would chew on the wax, and like sometimes I would just eat the wax. But
Oh,
um,
gross.
yeah, no, and the candy, the ones where like the wax bottles, with
Oh,
like a little bit
yeah.
of soda in it or whatever. Like I'm trying to think if like there was ever a moment or one of those like exploded or popped open and like ruined my bag. I feel like I would just use a pillowcase, really, like
Oh,
classic
you used a
pillowcase.
pillowcase. Okay. My mom was anti pillowcase. She was very judgmental about the pillowcases. So I always had one of those. I had, like the classic plastic pumpkin.
Oh yeah, classic pumpkin. That's a great. When I was the mailman, I don't think I had an actual mail bag, but it might have been the first time I ever used a tote.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's really cute. That it goes with your costume.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. Okay. So the email goes on to say, I wish I had asked my grandmother for Halloween stories from her childhood in the 1880s.
Oh my god,
Those would be
incredible.
great stories to send into your show. Anyone hearing Luce read this letter, ask your grandparents about the Halloweens of their childhoods and send in the stories. We should preserve firsthand accounts of old Halloweens while we still can. Best wishes, Mr. Pole.
Ooh.
Wow. I love that. And yes, my goodness, please, this Halloweekend, if you see family or give your grandparents or great aunts and uncles a call and get some stories. I would love to hear. I mean, my goodness, if there are any turn of the century ones, Victorians had such a fascinating way of celebrating Halloween, mostly romantic games of chance. It was a very romantic holiday for Victorian Americans. So I
Ugh,
would love to
that's so
hear if
cool.
you had any of that in your family. I think that would be so fun.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, and I feel like I was talking recently about that idea of like, people wanting to preserve their grandparents' stories and things like that. And I feel like a lot of people. I mean, I haven't done it, but I guess I should. But that idea of like, but it's like asking like more like serious questions. But I kind of love that idea of like, what was Halloween like? What was Christmas like? What was, did they have Labor Day? 50 years
Right.
ago? I honestly don't know.
I used to know the history of Labor Day, but mostly that in America moved it from May 1st, May Day to September in order to weaken the strength of the unions.
Oh wow.
So May Day is still such a huge celebratory, like celebrating, labor in Europe. And here we don't even know what Labor Day is because they've completely disconnected it from the like activist roots of trying, to get safe working conditions and less hours and all those things that we're still fighting for today. So that's a
Yes,
little, it's
it's
always
still a
Labor
very
Day.
important. The spookiest thing of all, capitalism. Oh,
Always.
always, yeah, it's always. Um, and yeah, like Easter is near my birthday, so I've had kind of an interesting fascination with that. But I learned only recently that my mom, I mean, and at least gave me the impression that my birthday had fallen on Easter at some point growing up.
Oh,
But
interesting.
but I learned that it always was either a day like it's fallen on my birthday's fallen on a day before, I think once, and a day after once. And then actually next year is when my birthday will actually fall on Easter for the first time in my
Oh my
lifetime.
gosh. Can we have an Easter themed birthday party for you?
Yes. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh, give
gosh.
everyone a scavenger hunt and
Yes.
like
Oh, I think that would be so fun. Yeah, like an Easter egg hunt, and we can all wear like bunny ears.
yeah.
And oh, I have a lot of ideas for this.
Yes. Well, I
Let's
feel
make it
like
happen.
Easter I feel like that nobody talks I feel like everyone's kind of Christmas versus Halloween, but I feel like there's a lot of potential for Easter to kind of come up. There's not a lot of spring holidays.
Hmm.
And I feel like maybe I don't hold as much baggage with like my connection to Easter because it's never been like, they're not really in competition with each other the way like Halloween. I feel like Halloween is always used for good with somebody's birthday. And then I feel like people on Christmas get screwed over.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I think there's tension because on November 1st, there's immediately Christmas music. All the Halloween stuff is gone. And it's like, that's not fair. Like, Halloween is still like happening, especially because November 1st is All Saints Day and the Day of the Dead, and November 2nd is All Souls Day. And it's all still a part of the same grouping of holidays and history. And so to just go right into the juggernaut of Christmas, it's like we all are a little hung over still. We're like not
Yeah.
ready for it. So that definitely causes some tension.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this EEEKmail, Mr. Poll. I loved this. I just, the image of a cat following a mouse, following a cheese. Like, what a fantastic group of costumes.
I love that. And I feel like, and I don't know how much of a case it is in reality, but like, I remember a friend who was working for Disney Animation. Like one year they had a whole haunted house set up throughout all the studios. And so like they would take their kids
Oh,
to, and it was like it was all ages, but it was like, oh, like let's do the haunted house trick or treat situation, but at work. I mean, that was probably just because people still needed to be at the office. So they were like, well, you guys can just do Halloween here. But I don't know.
mhm.
There's something kind of fun about, because I feel like growing up, my neighborhood my neighborhood was just Halloween, or it was just trick or treating. Like I know friends growing up that have mentioned like, oh, like there would be the neighborhood haunted house where like the dad would get really into, like, I never really had that element.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we never had like a neighborhood haunted house, but in school, in elementary school, the sixth grade class of, I think his name was Mr. Bloomfield. He was like the cool sixth grade teacher. I didn't have him. I had Mr. Markle, who I thought was really cool, but was like a lot harder. And so people didn't like him. But I was a teacher's pet forever and always. So I was like, this is a great challenge for me. But Mr. Bloomfield's class would build this haunted house in his wing of the sixth grade classrooms. And all of everybody in the school got to walk through it. And it
Amazing.
was really cool. And I look forward to that every year. But yeah, we didn't have any neighborhood people doing that. That would have been neat.
No, that yeah, I really yeah, it's I mean, even just thinking about it now, yeah, it seems like there was adults who really liked Halloween, and maybe I didn't appreciate that as much.
Yeah, I think because it seems like it's a holiday for you, for kids, and there are elements to that, but I really think it's a holiday for everyone because we're all trying to come to grips with death and the unknown and becoming a little bit closer to whatever lurks beyond the veil. It's something that I think we can all kind of work through together in our different age appropriate ways, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think if anything, our generation has embraced Halloween more than anyone else, truly.
Yes, I agree. I think millennials have given the opportunity for all the forthcoming generations to live as they like and not try to, I don't know, buy into some idea of adulthood looking a certain way or acting a certain way, or that you have to give something up as you get older. That's
Yes.
something I always found to be a fallacy.
No, I agree. I mean, yeah, with anything, I mean, I think Halloween is like any sort of nerdy or any specific interest where it is like that thing of you're really into it as a kid. It's like a bell curve of like your own acceptance and
Yeah.
also like or like those memes of where it's like woke, broke, bespoke, or like the brain, like the brain, like
Yes, but the brain gets like brighter and brighter and brighter until light is shooting out of your whole body.
yeah, it's like, yeah, you think this thing is one way, then you learn it's another way, and then you're like, well, actually, that was a society that was teaching me to accept the thing at a certain way, and then here I'm enlightened, being like, oh, well, I'd never have to give this stuff up, and actually, in some ways, um, growing up isn't necessarily like giving up, like you just said very eloquently, like giving up isn't giving, growing up isn't giving up,
Yes.
and in fact, in some ways, like being able to be who you are as a kid, as an adult, and in a way that is, um, with what comes with age, experience, and stuff, is actually maybe the best version of yourself.
I
In some
absolutely
ways.
agree. Yeah, because then you're the most at home with yourself. I think the best part about growing up is you have the opportunity to stop caring about what other people think because you're not in school with a bunch of other people your age who are like looking at you and talking about you and setting expectations. And there are definitely people, you know, who take the opportunity to still care a lot and try to fit into whatever is the thing of that moment in their group. But I've found college and onward to be a very relaxing time in my life because I've gotten to just be like, yeah, I like this. Yeah, I do this. This is my thing.
I feel like you and I are very similar in that sense, where it was almost one of those things where it's like I didn't really drink that much until after I turned 21 because it was like, well, now I can just buy it and have it, and I don't have to like jump through all these hoops to do it or do it because people think it's cool or it's like, or you know, or whatever. There was just like, oh, I could just enjoy this activity because it's like when I'm just most naturally myself, where it's like, yeah, I'm not much of a rule breaker, but hey, now that I can buy whatever alcohol I want, I'm gonna get freaking trashed on a Tuesday night. I
Yeah,
don't know if this
you
is a good
wait
example.
until you're like the age. Yeah, exactly. Well, like you said, just not giving into like whatever's going on around you and getting to just do what you want to do. And I think that that's really underrated. I don't know. I still see people in their 30s be like, oh, well, I don't know. It's kind of weird for me to be into this. And I'm like, says
Oh
who?
my
Like,
gosh.
there's no rules. No one's in charge. No gods, no masters. Literally do what you like as long as it's consensual and not like, you know, messing up another person.
Yeah,
Like,
I love that. I also recently thought to myself, no gods, no masters.
I
That's
say
so
that to
fun.
myself all the time.
I wanted to like look it up too because I was like, oh, I know that phrase, but I was like, I was thinking about it a lot and I
I
had to
have a
look it
really
up.
cute patch, like a back patch that is a kitten and it says no dogs, no masters.
Aw, that's cute.
It's very good. Well, I have the perfect eek mail to go along with what we're talking about. This one has the appropriate subject line: "You're never too old."
Yes.
Dear Luce, what age do most kids stop trick or treating? 13 when they're a rebellious teen? 16 when they can drive to a party? 18 when they're officially an adult? Well, I think you're never too old. So when I was 20 and away at college, I got a small group of friends to don costumes with me for at least one more year of door to door treats. To set the
Ooh.
scene, our costumes were an angel, a 60s go go dancer, Julius Caesar in a bloody toga. That's a good one. Neo from The Matrix, sexy vampire, scary vampire, and pirate. That's such a
Wow.
great array of costumes.
I love that. Yeah, I mean it is like what is the perfect Halloween double feature that isn't necessarily like again Mario Kart. The last time I did an office Halloween party was 2016 and there was an entire department dressed up as all the Stranger Things characters complete with the alphabet wall.
Oh, that's cute.
But I'm kind of more of, I'm always a kid that likes to kid. I as a kid, I liked to like again, no gods, no masters. Like my Ninja Turtles, Jurassic Park, Transformers, they were all getting in the mix together. Luke
Right.
Skywalker was fighting dinosaurs. Again, no gods, no masters. That's such a perfect phrase.
That's what I think
Um,
is so cool about Halloween, though, when you see a family or a group of friends together and it's all of these disparate characters and imagery that you'd never see together. But Halloween is like, oh, it's all a crossover episode.
yeah, this was the original, like, yeah, crossover cinematic universe. Was like, ooh, like Alan Grant from Jurassic Park meets Elvira. You're like, hell yeah, like I
Yeah.
want to see that world.
Yeah, exactly. All right, back to the email. We started in the dorms. There were some seasonal decorations put up by the university, but what really made me happy was seeing that a lot of students had decorated their doors, both store-bought or handmade decorations. Half a
Ooh.
dozen of the rooms even had jack-o'-lanterns inside. At those rooms, I gave them candy to congratulate them on their Halloween spirit. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. That's so cute. Not everyone opened the door, but many did, and a few were prepared with traditional candy, but most were so amused by a group of trick-or-treaters in full costume that they did their best to give us something. Bags of chips and cheese puffs take up a lot more room in a pillowcase than candy, but they aren't any heavier, so it just gave us an even better visual with full, bulging bags.
Wow, that makes sense because I feel like when you're in the dorms, because the food is like, in the, the dining hall or whatever downstairs or, a walk away, it's like, yeah, you are going to Vaughn's or Albertsons and you're getting like a pack of Cheez-Its or,
Yes, all
I'm
those little
surprised there.
fun packs, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. I'm surprised you weren't just getting like free-handed like a handful of Cheetos or, you know.
One of those small containers of Easy Mac.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That I feel like that's been a thing. Somebody write in, they've been given a thing of Easy Mac.
Oh gosh, that's so
Or,
funny. Or
or Pop-Tarts.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Pop-Tarts. Oh, I loved Pop-Tarts as a kid and I wasn't allowed to have them. So that actually would have been a fantastic treat for me to receive.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. A lot of my friends were skeptical that this would work at all, but after a couple of floors, they were really coming around. I'm sure having months worth of free snacks in their hands didn't hurt. But the group energy really jumped up when one guy whose door we knocked on was so excited, he quickly tossed on his Ren Fair costume and joined us.
Oh.
Not only were we getting treats, but we were getting people. After the dorms, we went to the campus apartment quad, and the decorations here were even better. Jack-o'-lanterns, sheet ghosts with backpacks, trees covered in spider webs, and several apartments were having Halloween parties, so we got to see a lot of people in costume. One party even turned off the music, and everyone came out to see that there were actual trick-or-treaters with pillowcases full of food. Almost no one had candy, but here's what we got: oatmeal, fortune cookies, raw potatoes, socks, slices of pizza, cans of beer, and one group at a party enthusiastically filled our pillowcases with condoms.
Wow. Honestly, I'm loving this because I feel like, you're in college. Like, I feel like I'd be terrified if I saw children around. Like, what the heck's happening?
Yes.
I mean, maybe because my school was UC Santa Barbara is very separate from. It's very like its own. It's literally a peninsula off the coast of California, but there wasn't. We weren't in like a normal
like a neighborhood.
Yeah, it was just all students. So I kind of love these college kids being like, hey, like, here's some, like, I like that everyone like thought that like everyone wanted to give something. I really like that a lot.
I know, it's so sweet and generous, right? Like they weren't making fun of them or bullying them or anything. Yeah. We finished off the night by walking off campus and trick-or-treating the homes of several teachers who were within walking distance. By this point, it was an hour past the official trick-or-treating time for our town. We didn't care about getting any candy from our teachers. We just wanted to surprise our favorite ones and show off our costumes. But one of them was out of candy and instead gave us the one thing she had: extra credit.
Oh my God, what? Man, that
our
teacher is tired and she was just like, I just want everyone to be happy. I want work to go easier. I'm going to give them extra credit.
You have A's. She was our theater teacher, so I guess showing up at her house in costume justified bumping everyone up a single %.
Wow.
All the treats we got lasted well into the next semester, and the memories lasted a lifetime. Luce, thank you for this niche-filling podcast. There would be nowhere for weird memories like this without It's Always Halloween. Julie. Oh my gosh, Julie, this is, I love all of my EEEKmails equally, but I do have to say this is really one of my favorites.
Well, I was going to ask,
funny.
Have you ever gotten extra credit for dressing up?
Yes. My school did a thing called Laura Ingalls Wilder Day, where we, like, all the classes, we'd learn about how things were like on the prairie, like in the 1800s. We didn't learn about like, the government giving away land grants to white people when that land actually belonged to indigenous people. But
No,
we did
no.
learn how to churn butter and ice cream. So
Wow, yeah.
important,
That's
important things.
oh boy.
But if we dressed up in our best like prairie costume, then we did get extra credit. And I loved dressing up as a kid. I had a whole costume trunk where, because I would play dress up. That was like one of my favorite games when I was, probably under 10 when I was pretty little. But yeah, so I already had like a prairie costume because I was obsessed with Little House on the Prairie. So I got extra credit every year because I would dress up in like a different Laura Ingalls Wilder
I love
outfit.
that. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of came up during that email, but for English class in I think ninth grade, they would give you extra credit if you went to the Renaissance Fair, and then you would get even more extra credit if you dressed up. So
Oh, that's
I,
cute.
I definitely was too shy to dress up as much as I wanted to necessarily growing up, but in college, again, and I mean, this might be like its own thing, so I don't want to get into it too much. But like, yeah, I think I mentioned up top, like at UC Santa Barbara, depending on when Halloween fell, like truly every year it would be like 4 or 5 nights of partying, and you were expected to wear a different costume every night, and um, that was truly when I like really got into Halloween, and as far as like dressing up and really like enjoying the thrill of coming up with ideas. And honestly, since I've lived in LA, it's been very stressful because I feel like I only really
Yes.
get maybe one night of Halloween, and so I'm like, oh, like I have to turn like 4 okay. I like there was always like a weeknight of like Halloween where it's like, okay, cool, here's this cool drag thing I was doing. Okay, here's this like Beatles thing or whatever. A random obscure movie, Sam Neill's
Mhm.
character from the piano. And then it's like one night I'm like, I'm a punk, or like, or I wear like, but you couldn't wear costumes for like even just talking about it now. I feel like when I talk to people now, it's like I sound like I don't get into that game anymore. It's like, I'm called back for one more night, one more action. I've been out of the game. Like, so yeah, every year now it's like, oh, I have to do one Halloween costume. That sucks. Like,
I
I want to spread out,
know.
whatever. But
No, I
it's a lot.
agree. I find it much harder. Well, I find LA intimidating because people have a lot of money here and people are from the industry. So there's a lot of costumers and like a lot of very creative people who put together perfect and well cured outfits, like they're incredible. And I'm like, oh, I can't compete. And it makes me feel sort of anxious.
No, and yeah, maybe this is also could be its own thing, but it's like I feel like in LA too, the problem is in a good way that there's so many of us who love Halloween. I mean, anyone that we know, we say we all love Halloween,
Yeah.
but then it becomes an issue of like there's too much. We want to do too much. Like, oh, they're like one year I went to the Natural History Museum and watched some like cool post-punk bands and got to go to this mummy, like South America mummy exhibit. But
Ooh.
then there also was like a party at this comic book store, and then there was people wanted to do movie night, and like, oh, let's go see the oh my gosh, the Tommy Wiseau, the Room. Like, there's
Yes.
so much going on, and then it's like, oh god, I have to pick one thing to do. I want to do all of it.
Yes, exactly. And then it's like you can burn yourself out really fast. We actually do talk about this on the podcast a lot. And I recommend putting together a Halloween to-do list and adding to it, but like starting it in like July so that you can think meditatively about it without the pressure of actually having the plans right in front of you and like
Yes,
planning
I love
things
that.
out in the beginning of the month. But it is hard. Like we're in the Halloweekend right now. And this Halloweek, it's like, this is when you're hearing about everything. Suddenly there's invites every night of the week for something, and personally, just from working on this podcast, I've had to kind of shift my focus and make Halloween about this podcast until, it becomes a little bit more of my life and I don't have to juggle it between like 3 other jobs. So
Yeah.
a lot of my celebrating has been with the lanterns, and I look forward to a future when we can get back to like many, many parties. But of course, it doesn't really feel safe to do that many things yet either, like with
Yeah.
strangers.
Yeah, I did Halloween Horror Nights for the first time this year. Had a great time, but it was the scariest thing are the teens, like
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm glad I did it because I've hit up most of the Halloween frights here in Southern California, like the
I love
hayride.
Halloween Horror Nights. It's actually one of my all-time favorite things to do in LA.
It is great. It's just it was just again going back to that sort of like we're getting back into the groove, and it was just like, oh, there's more people here than a normal day at Universal.
Yes, that sort of made me feel a little overwhelmed. And at one point, I had to just be like, I'm wearing my mask the whole time. Everyone else is wearing their masks. They're really good at it at Universal. There were a lot of animatronics, not as many actors, and the tops of all the mazes were open. So
Yes.
there's
Oh
no,
yes.
no closed spaces. So I was like, this feels as safe as possible. And at one point I was just like, I guess if I'm going to get sick doing this, then that's what's going to happen. Like, I hope not, but I had to just be like, you're in it, baby. Like,
Yeah.
because
Well,
I just can't spend another Halloween on total lockdown. My mental health like needs to do something,
no, it was very depressing to be like, oh, I don't know what I did for Halloween last year. And I figured it out and it was fine. But it was just one of those things where it's like, I don't want that to happen again. But I will say one of the things that I've done this year, and I wonder if other people have done this or do this more. But one of the things every year I always, and it happens around Christmas too, I just want to see what people are doing on their lawns. And, a lot of us
Yes.
I live in an apartment and you do the best you can. But there's so like, I think that the one thing that I've done a lot this month subconsciously without even realizing I realized it this week because I also work from home, which is, great and has those things. But like, sometimes you need to get out of the house.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I find myself taking the side roads, driving through neighborhoods because like I'll see a peak of like a blow up thing. I will see, some cobwebs that I know aren't real. And I've just been taking little Halloween detours through neighborhoods and just really enjoying what people, because if especially because of last year, it's like people were at home. So some people were like going all out. We're in the age of the 12-foot skeleton.
Yes.
And so it's been one of those things where I'm like, if you're feeling a little anxious about going to a party or anything like that, maybe just, you and your partner, you and some close friends, you're by yourself, whatever you want to do, just drive around your neighborhood because I think you're bound to see something cool. And I will say the one really cool thing I saw a couple days ago was, I guess they're selling the giant worms from Beetlejuice or Dune, whichever you prefer.
That is
like,
so cool.
Like an inflatable one, wacky inflatable arm flailing two-man style.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
just saw somebody's house because I was driving through neighborhoods with houses, and I saw it was on top of someone's garage overlooking the street. And then in front of it was a Black Lives Matter sign. And I just was like, I like the two things here. They're two things that I love. And like,
Yes.
pro both things. Well, I guess I don't know if I'm pro sandworm, but I'm pro decorating in that kind of way.
Sure.
So,
We love what the sandworm represents,
yes.
a world of infinite ghostly possibilities.
There we go. But yeah, so that truly was like a real standout. On that same block was I think this rich person, like, it's funny. I tweeted the other day, like, eat the rich, except for the ones that decorate for Halloween.
Yes, if they're using their money for good.
Yeah, but yeah, so there was like an octopus thing, and yeah, there's like there's just been some good stuff in neighborhoods. So I urge you, yeah, like if you're kind of feeling anxious about going out or anything like that, like truly just drive around your neighborhood. I saw a witch T-Rex, that was pretty
Cute.
dope.
Oh, Stephen, that is such great advice. And I don't know if we've actually talked about that on the podcast before, but that's awesome because one, it's free, so it's accessible to everyone. Two, you can do it alone with your family or with some friends, but you can control the amount of people that you're around so that you can keep it safe,
Yeah.
your level of safety. And then you could also, if you're in a more dense area, you can walk around. So like get some exercise, enjoy the outdoors, get that crisp air, crunch through the leaves. You don't have to be trick-or-treating to still. The very first year I moved here, I didn't have much to do because I didn't know that many people yet. We had friends who lived in Burbank and they were like, oh, there's this huge neighborhood for trick-or-treating in Burbank. We should go. And so we went, we just walked around with all the families trick-or-treating. And like, obviously we didn't go up to people's houses, but we just got to see all the kids dressed up and we got to see all the cool decorations. And it felt like we were trick or treating without being like the weird people in our 20s being like, oh, hi.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and if anything, I was thinking also about gosh, was it this year or last year? I can't even remember. WandaVision, I appreciate in their Halloween episode, it like truly looked like a block party. And I don't
Mm,
know if I ever really grew up with a Halloween that specific where it was, but it
like that
feels
many
like
people.
yeah, but I appreciate that look because I feel like maybe that's how Halloween used to be at some point, and like ET kind of had that vibe too, where like
Yes. Oh, I
that where
love
people
ET's
are.
Halloween. That's such
Oh
a great
yeah,
scene.
but yeah, that idea of like it's Halloween isn't just trick or treating. There is other elements. Like even if it like I feel like anybody who was like truly growing up in the 80s probably has stories of their parents like drinking and having friends over while they just like ate candy, or whatever.
Yes. I have this memory of my parents coming home from trick or treating with friends and my parents watching whatever horror movie was on the network TV that night and being like, "Oh no, turn it off. I'm scared."
Huh. I love that.
Well, do we have time for one more eek mail or should we wrap it up?
No, let's do one more.
Okay, great. This one is coming all the way from the land down under.
Ooh.
Yeah. It starts, Hi, Luce. Thanks for the wonderful podcast. I've been listening for a little while, but I'm not all the way caught up yet. Well, hopefully you'll hear this episode.
Next
I
Halloween, they're like, oh my God.
yeah, it's so great to get this message finally. We'll try not to put anything in here that's dated.
Evergreen.
I'm another Australian lantern, and like Sephora said in her letter, we don't really have a Halloween tradition over here. We certainly didn't celebrate in the small towns I grew up in, but now I live in a cute little inner city suburb where a number of houses decorate for Halloween, and we generally get a few groups of trick-or-treaters. Ah, congratulations.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've also heard that Halloween isn't that big in Australia for some reason. And I don't
Isn't
know if
that
that's people
wild?
just saying things, but I'm like, that
No.
feels like common knowledge to me right
So
now.
she mentioned another lantern, Sephora, who's written in a couple times to tell us about how there is no Halloween. And it makes me so sad. And Australia is one of my favorite countries. I'm low key obsessed with Australia. And I was heartbroken to be like, I don't actually think I could ever live there then.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would almost be like the onus is on you to be like, it's almost like when somebody lives in, I mean, Thanksgiving's all fucked up now, but like, or I mean, it's always been fucked up, obviously, but in
Right,
terms of
right.
like our awareness, that's what I mean. I mean, our awareness of it and like, yeah, why are we continuing to celebrate this thing? Like, I
Yes.
like the notion of seeing your friends and family, great, but the idea that it should be a holiday or well it should be something else if it shouldn't be celebrating Christopher Columbus or
You know
I
what?
love how I mixed up the two holidays. I mean,
No,
neither
I
of
think
those
that's
holidays should
good.
be
We
figured out,
shouldn't,
but
don't even try to remember. It's not,
yeah, yeah,
whatever the history around Thanksgiving is, it's inaccurate anyways, and it's one-sided based on colonialism. So like
yeah,
you don't even have to try to remember it. So we
yeah,
need somebody to like unlearn us Thanksgiving, and then we need to go over to Australia and help them learn
Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah, no, totally. But yeah, that's more of my thinking of like I know people who like lived in the UK and they were American and they would have like American Thanksgiving or whatever.
Oh, yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and people are
Yeah.
like, "Why? What are you doing?" And you're like, "Turkey and stuffing."
Yeah, and just to say quickly, my one because I did do a Halloween in the UK,
Oh,
and
yes, tell us.
it's not as big there, but it's definitely bigger than Australia. But it was one of those things where I was visiting a friend at an undergrad university, even though I was in graduate school, because I had friends who like studied abroad from the UK. So then when I went to the
Mm.
UK the next fall, I hung out with them. Anyway,
Oh, that's cool.
uh, it was very funny because you think about anything that you like, your fandoms or whatever. And I got into Harry Potter at the time. Look,
Of
all of us,
course.
we all have a
Yeah.
weekness. And and so I was like, oh, cool. Like I'm in England. I love this thing. And or I was getting into it at the time because I didn't read it. I didn't read them all growing up or anything. And so I thought it would be cool to like dress up as a Harry Potter character. And I like show up at the university where it's like, everyone our age is like 21 to 23 or whatever. But like if you think about it, like this thing was huge and mainstream growing up. So like a bunch of college kids are like, what the hell are you like? It was like the lamest thing I could have done.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
And if you're
Yeah.
studying abroad, that means you just got there, right? When you were doing the Halloween, so you're still
Yes,
like
exactly. Yeah.
you're
So it
still
was like a
trying to
real,
like make your way.
yeah, it was like a bad move all around. Yeah. I mean, there
Oh,
was, it was just like, oh, that's cute. He's the American who likes this like,
dumb American holiday.
well, this dumb American, like a, it's that thing of like, it might be cool here to like Doctor Who, but for kids who grew up with it, it's like that's some old lame thing we watched as a kid. It was that kind of
Oh,
similar
yeah,
vibe.
like, you think this is cool, but we don't like this. Like, you're picking up on
No.
the wrong aspect of our culture.
Yeah, exactly. Which I
Uh,
mean, honestly, history turns out good call.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I want to shout out our lanterns in the UK, Keith and Ruth, and I know we have more, but we do have some very dedicated people in Halloween land that do live out there who have come to our movie nights and are like regularly
Oh,
trying to get
wonderful.
more Halloween stuff going in their towns and in their countries. So we're thinking of you in the countries that don't celebrate Halloween as much, and we more power to you. If there's anything we could do, hopefully we're doing it.
I know you move to Australia, you decorate where you're living, and it's like they're like this woman just started covering her apartment in spider webs. Like, what's
Yeah,
happening?
I know. I have to start putting together Halloween pamphlets and handing them out in August to prepare people.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
okay, well, back to the Eek Mail. Last year, we had a very interesting Halloween as we were in a super strict lockdown. Quite a few houses in our street decorated and hung up little bags of treats on their front fences. That's cute.
Yeah.
My husband and I strung some across our front driveway, and they were gone in no time. Lots of kids in the area wore costumes for their outdoor exercise. One reason we're allowed to leave the house is for exercise. And we went for a walk to look at all the decorations in our area. It ended up being a really nice day. It
Oh,
was That's also what we were just talking about, going outside and appreciating decorations.
yeah.
It was also our baby's first Halloween. He was born on October 4th, so almost a Halloween baby. I'm learning to sew, so I made little costume bits for us all. I will include a photo because I think he looks hilarious as a little wolfie.
Oh,
Any
that sounds so cute.
It's super cute. I am also going to send that to you. Um, Anyways, that was a long intro to ask a very small question. Could you please tell me what is a haunted hayride? Because I talk
Oh,
about the LA haunted hayride constantly. I am familiar with haunted houses and ghost trains, but I've never heard of a haunted hayride until I started listening to the Halloween podcast. I know a quick Google search would probably clear this up, but I love the way you and the lanterns describe things so much. I really wanted to write in and hear it directly from you. Keep up the amazing work. It looks like it will be another lockdown Halloween for us in Melbourne this
mm,
year. So, your podcast and all the lantern stories are really giving me all the Halloween feels I need to get through. Thanks again, Claire.
thank
Oh
you,
my
Claire.
goodness, Claire. Um, I think it's really interesting that Melbourne is doing a lockdown still. America's
Yeah,
totally given up on trying to keep people safe anymore.
yeah, no, I definitely feel like, I mean, most countries are bumbling it. New Zealand's doing pretty well. Sorry, Aussies. But I love you both. I've spent time in both countries, and I love both. And I actually lived in New Zealand, so that's probably why my heart's a little bit softer for that. But I'm also like you, Luce. I love Australia. I think about it constantly, and I literally just had somebody on SJR who's from Australia. So,
Oh,
um,
cool.
yeah, Ruby Fields. She's really great. But um,
I just
to the
sent you a
haunt.
little picture so that you can
Oh
see. It
yes,
looks
I want
like
to
they
see this.
were Little Red Riding Hood and the Woodsman and the Wolf. And it's a really funny
Oh, I love
picture
that.
because the little
I love.
baby is like crying, but he kind of looks like you could be like, oh, that's like an angry growling wolf.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, because I think there's always some debate over like dressing up, babies or pets, and I'm on the side of, hopefully everyone's having fun. And so I like that their costume is like creative and cool, but also looks very comfy. So, because I'm
Yeah, and
also about
simple.
partially comfort. Yeah, simple.
Comfort is key. As I get older, I feel like when you're really, really young, and then when you're like maybe post 30, you need comfortable costumes. I like can't with all of the moving parts and polyester and taffeta anymore.
I mean, I've done a night of heels in Halloween, baby. Man, my feet had never been cut up in my life. So much respect for anybody who's wearing heels all the time, because it was rough.
Truly. Well, so Stephen, have you gone to a haunted hayride, and how would you describe it?
Well, yes, and I would actually say to anyone that in this, and even if you live in LA and you think you know what it is a you're riding in a what's the right word for it, like a maze basically. And it's,
Yes.
we as the rise of theme park haunted experiences, I grew up with Not Scary Farm, the Queen Mary. You're walking through this maze, you're getting scared, all that, all the good stuff that you think of when you think of like Halloween haunted experiences. But instead, and again, speaking of like this idea of just driving around, you're just sitting in a little cart,
Wagon.
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
wagon.
Kind of a large wagon, though, like a wagon that could hold like 20 to 30 people.
And I think actually the haunted hayride here is limiting it to 15 this year, I believe.
Oh, that's thrilling. That sounds so nice, because usually, yeah, they really cram you in there with people, but it's a big platform filled with hay, and you sit in hay. Yeah, and like you said, you
And
go through a maze and things jump out at you and they come up to the cart and they hang on to the cart and they sort of like attack you, scare you for a little bit, and then walk away, and then you go through a new scene and then new characters jump out at you.
yeah, and I would say, because again, as I think more people are starting, or are accepting of Halloween or embracing it or those sorts of things, I feel like the walking experiences sometimes are a little tough because the timing of you isn't exactly perfect. And so
Yes, if you're at
what
the
I
very end, you get to see the people in front of you get scared, but you miss it.
yes, exactly. And I would say, my actually only one time I've gone to haunted raid, right? I'm sad to say, but it just felt very like chef's kiss. Like the hand reaches out of the thing right at that moment. There's a lot more. It feels like the creators have a lot more control. So it feels like
Mhm.
I'm getting an actual curated experience that I feel like was more effective. So even though you're in the safety of, it's almost like VR, where it's like, okay, well, there's this one thing where like I know I'm where I know like I'm the grounding of it is in the wagon, but
Mhm.
then everything else can scare you. But like it's like that perfect balance between, because I feel like in mazes they can be scary because like either there's not enough stuff scaring you, or it's scary because you're like, oh, if I get scared, I don't even know where the way out is. Like,
Mhm.
to me, I think the haunted hayride, I'm presuming that the one in LA isn't the first one or anything by any means, but I felt like it was almost like the most perfectly curated horror maze experience.
Yes, I love it because, like you said, it drives you to different scenes, like vignettes, basically. So
Yeah.
you watch, it's like a little haunted play. There's this scene and then you're watching it unfold, and then actors will either run out or there'll be more actors hidden that you didn't even know were there, and they'll come up from behind, and they sort of are coming up on all sides of the cart. And then when it starts going again, it's being pulled by a big tractor.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily stop. They kind of keep getting you, and you're not sure where they're going to come from. But I do like that you get to sit. It just feels
Yes.
like it's scary and relaxing. It's nice to like not have to, because if I get really scared, sometimes my knees give out and I'll like almost hit the ground.
Yeah. Well, and also too, yeah, it is like VR where it is better if you're sitting down. So like,
Yeah,
um,
it's really nice. And I also like that it's outside, and the haunted hayride in LA goes through Griffith Park, which is the second largest park in California and could fit like 7 Central Parks in it. It's huge.
yeah. And
So,
I was just going to say briefly, because I don't know if they do this every year. So I'm fine with spoiling it because I think it's worth hearing. So there was an old zoo, as far
yes.
as like zoos go, like glad that none are like this anymore, at least the ones, the conservation communities I champion, but it's in Griffith Park there before the original LA Zoo was like your scary like cages all next to each other, like fake rocks, all that stuff.
Yeah, like
And
with those iron bars like you see
Yes,
in
like
like old 50s movies.
a literal prison for these animals. God.
Yeah, and it was just right in the park. Like you could just like walk through it.
Yeah, and so those have been abandoned and they've now become, places to shoot your headshots, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, and
or your
everyone
short
calls
films.
it. Yes, no, totally. And everyone calls it the old zoo. And supposedly it is haunted without,
Oh.
Did you know about it being haunted?
No, I did. I mean, I'm assuming, there's a lot of horrible things done to animals there.
Yes. Well, supposedly it's haunted by tigers and monkeys and lions. Definitely tigers and lions. I think monkeys also. But yeah, supposedly there's like ghost animals. And then if you're
Whoa.
walking through by yourself at night, you can hear the roaring and chittering and like crying of the animals, which I don't want to be too exploitative about it, because obviously it's a terrible thing. Those animals were not treated well, but those animals have also been dead for like 50 years.
Yeah.
So I do think the idea of a ghost tiger is kind of fun.
No, totally. I mean, honestly, the humans have been kind of taking up the ghost game for too long. Like we need more
Yes,
ghost diversity. But
exactly.
and I don't know if maybe you've gone this year, Luce, but
Not yet. We always go on Halloween night. So we have our tickets for tomorrow for Saturday or Sunday night.
Oh, nice. Yeah, the one year I went was they set up that part of the zoo as almost like a zombie containment facility or something like
fun.
that. So it was almost like there was like fog machines and there was like lights being like warning, like the containment has been breached, and so you'd see all these hands like reaching out from the bars. It was like I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now.
That's so cool. And then the bars like open and they all come out.
Yeah, chasing you. Yeah, it was like the perfect little, because I feel like imagine if you did that walking, like I would just panic that I'm gonna like actually like trip and fall and get swallowed up by the crowd.
Yes. Yeah. One year I saw these incredible stilt performers. They were on sort of like these tall towers that kind of bent, and it looked like they were just very long-legged crows. They were sort of like dressed like birds, and they would bend over the wagon, and they had these like wings, and they would like bend down and back up again, and it was so beautiful and almost like aerobatic,
Yeah.
and it was really scary, but also because it was scary because it went against what you're expecting and it didn't make sense, so your brain was like, oh, what? How is this happening? But it also was just like so beautiful. And I really love that feeling kind of being astonished, like more than being like horrified, but just being like, what am I even looking at right now? That's like one of my favorite feelings.
Oh yeah, there was sort of a sublime when people used to say awesome, I guess, like awesome used to just mean more. It wasn't necessarily good. It was just like awe-inspiring or awing or what,
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It's funny. I just had this thought of like the haunted hayride is essentially just like it's just a kink. Like it's like getting to explore something that is dangerous, but but actually like in kink or like BDSM, like you're exploring things that may like be dangerous in real life, but you're like in a setting where it's supposed to be safe,
Yes,
so you feel
that's
comfortable.
totally how I feel about haunted houses. Yeah, you get to explore the most dangerous, scary things in a way where you'll end up being safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. So, Claire, I hope that helps you. So haunted hayride, you're being pulled by a tractor in a wagon filled with hay through a haunted maze that stops occasionally, and then you get attacked, and then you go on. And it's awesome because you're outside and you don't get claustrophobic, and the night air is really chilly. And the LA Haunted Hayride has this really good vegan food truck with like vegan mac and cheese fried balls and cider donuts and chili cheese dogs. And it's just like, it's my favorite. And they always have this merry-go-round, but all of the horses are skeleton horses and it goes backwards.
So good. And the safe word is horse, actually.
Yeah. And they have palm readers and tarot card readers and what else? They usually have like 3 small like mini haunts, like mazes also.
Yeah. Like they have some off the truck stuff, but it's like the stuff that is like cool,
Really
um
cool.
like the mirror mazes, but they have like a horror character like walking through, and so you're like they're chasing you, and then it's all the mirrors and the clear stuff, so you see them and it's like, oh, are they getting closer? Oh no, they're on the other side of the mirror or the glass or whatever. Like that was honestly really fun too,
So
actually.
frightening. They used to do a blackout maze, which some years they have it, some years they don't, where there's no lights and it's just like it's like literally a maze. And then there's some scary animatronics, but people aren't jumping out at you as much. You're really just like trapped in the dark and there's other people walking through. And I found that one to be really, really scary. In fact, I got so spooked by a person coming around a corner that I wasn't expecting because we were all in the dark and have these little tiny flashlights that I ran and then banged my knee really hard on the edge of one of the walls. And then that spooked me. So I ran in another direction and then there was an animatronic and it like hit me in the head.
Oh no. Look, Halloween, we gotta stay safe on Halloween. We gotta, but sometimes we do it for the scares, and it crosses over to real life,
Yeah. I know. I got really worked. I had this huge, like, purple knee for like a week and a half.
Halloween badge of honor.
Yes, exactly. Well, Stephen, this was such a delight. Thank you for taking some of these EEEKmails with me. I loved hearing about your experiences growing up and like what your, things that you're interested in with Halloween. As long as we've been friends, I don't think we've really like actually dived this deep into these topics before.
No. I mean, again, but it also feels like, well, again, it feels like every time we pod, it's like we'll talk for 2 hours before and 2 hours after about the same stuff. And I just never grow tired of talking to you, Luce. You're one of my favorite people on the planet.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephen. I agree.
And yeah, thank you for just letting me join the pod as a guest. This feels like I feel so honored. And yeah, just
you're our first ever guest.
I know. I'm so honored. But yeah, like truly, like this was so much fun, and your listeners are so, like they write so well and had such good stories. And yeah, I mean, again, it's like I felt like I grew up in a pretty standard Halloween situation, but even just in this last hour, it's like I've like heard so many different stories and like want to just hear more about what people's like Halloween was like, because it is my favorite holiday, but it is one of those things where it's like I've been so focused on celebrating it. You get really in the weeds of it, I think. And so this was cool to kind of step back and like there's no wrong way to celebrate Halloween.
Yes, I totally agree. There is no wrong way to celebrate Halloween as long as you are being kind and generous to your community.
Yeah, a good prank is giving them a rubber snake when you're dressed as a witch. Saying Merry Christmas is kind of lame. And I feel like just would leave somebody uncomfortable and be like, I'm scared. I don't know what the kids are into anymore. They said Merry Christmas when it's Halloween.
Very disturbing indeed. You and I did get to celebrate one Halloween together. You had a Halloween party 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
And
very drunk.
You were a dinosaur, and I was the little girl from the Bad Seed, Rhoda.
Oh my gosh. That Halloween I don't remember a lot because, drinking.
That's fair.
There were a lot of great pictures from that night.
I think I have one of us. I think it's very blurry, though, because it was taken in like your hallway either had a red light or a strobe light.
Yes.
And so it's very much that type of fuzzy party picture. But if I can find it and it's decent, I will share it with everybody. So we need to have another Halloween party together soon.
I know. Well, we've done a few holidays. We've done New Year's together. Truly one of the greatest New Year's as well, too. Because New Year's is like Halloween. I think you are probably similar where it's like, we're always going to have a good time. It's like pizza for me, where I'm like, all pizza is like pretty good. Some are great, some aren't good, but it's always like, I feel like I'm not going to go wrong with pizza.
Exactly.
And Halloween's like that for me. Like, even last year, I think I played some Jackbox game with some friends. Like I still dressed up and took some photos. Like
Yeah, I still had fun.
yeah, and so I feel like that way with Halloween. I'm learning to love Christmas as an adult. I've actually the ways that I've celebrated, I think, as an adult, I think it's like I was always kind of turned off by it. Because when you're a kid, it's amazing because you get all the toys. Like I was just lucky to get a lot of toys and everything. And then when you're like in the middle ground, you don't have any money. So you're like, this is stressful because I want to buy all my friends' stuff and I don't have money.
Yes, that's always how I feel. I find it stressful because I'm like, I have nothing to give.
Oh, you have so much to give, Lucy.
Oh, thank you.
But with New Year's, it's such a weird holiday because it's like it's either going to be awful or amazing, and there's no in between. And for me with New Year's, every other year is either amazing or awful. And so yours fell on an amazing year, and it is one of my favorite New Year's ever.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Well, I don't know if you know this, but New Year's is my other favorite holiday.
Ooh, so I was lucky to get to experience that with you.
Yes, I love New Year's. I love throwing New Year's parties. And it actually goes together really well because before the New Year's that we know, back in an ancient time, Samhain, All Hallows Eve, was the new year.
Oh,
so
wow.
that is how the Celts celebrated. It's the end of the harvest. And we're about to go into a very dark and cold time. So they would celebrate everything that they accomplished that year and prepare for the next year.
Wow. That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah. So that's what I think is fun to kind of celebrate October and celebrate Samhain and Halloween as a new year. And it takes a little bit of pressure off of the January New Year.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love that.
Well, if you guys want more of me and Steven, which I know you do, check out our See Jurassic Right episode together about dinosaurs and hot babes. That's brand new, just came out. And if that's not enough, I've done a Halloween episode of See Jurassic Right with Steven for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think, because it's 2021. Yeah, we've done, 2020, 2019. Yeah, then I think, because then 2018 was the last Jurassic movie. So yeah, I think we did it that year too. So yeah, I think
because we did.
It was a twofer that year,
right? Because we did Carnosaur and we did the bloodiest, scariest, like goriest moments. And I felt like there was maybe another one that we did.
We did like violent deaths last year.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, all good times.
So if you want some good dinosaur Halloween episodes, those exist out there. I'll drop them in the show notes so that you guys can access them really easily. And make sure you listen to Steven's other podcast, the Purrrrcast, and get all your kitty goodness. I know there's lots of people who love dressing up their pets out there. Have you ever dressed up your cat, Penny Lane?
She doesn't really care.
Yeah, no,
it's a great sadness, you know.
I know my cats won't do it either. And when I see people dress their cats up, I'm like, what personality does that cat have? I've never had a cat that would allow that. If I put even a bow around my cat's neck, they act like I am crushing them with like cement. They just flatten out on the ground and lay all the way down, completely demoralized.
Well, and I will say really quickly to plug a Purrrcast thing, because for Halloween this year, we went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery and we talked to Carrie Bible, who's the tour guide there. She's been giving the tour for 20 years now, basically.
So cool.
And the cat Close Up, one of the community cats there, he goes on the tour. And it was very funny because, and you'll hear in the episode, like, ooh, we're going to a cemetery for Halloween, you know, it's like spooky black cats. But like, honestly, it was the most like death positive, kind of life affirming kind of experience. That wasn't really spooky at all. But I feel like in, the people who listen to your podcast, like that's the point. Like Halloween isn't just like spooky, scary. There's like more to it than that. And so
exactly
that Purrrcast with Carrie Bible and Close Up the Cemetery Cat it kind of felt like a little bit of that, we're dealing with, like you're saying, it's like this, the transition from being alive to being dead. It doesn't have to be this scary thing. I don't know. I just thought it was just very different than what I expected, but I'm so thankful that I did it.
Wow, I love that. That sounds like such a special episode. Okay, I'm going to put that one in the show notes as well. Is there anything else you want to plug before we say happy Halloween and hit the trick-or-treating trail?
Yeah. No, I mean, just at Stephen Ray Morris on social. But yeah, thank you so much, Luce. This was such an honor. And yeah, I'm hoping we'll get to do more Halloweens, as the years grow on us.
Yes. Well, the good news, Stephen, is that it's always Halloween.
Yes.
Yay. Thank you so much. Happy Halloween, Stephen.
Happy Halloween, Luce.
What an exciting Halloween treat to have our first guest be the amazing Stephen Ray Morris. Like he said, you can find him on his podcasts, the Purrrrcasts, see Jurassic Right, and of course, as the mascot and audio engineer of My Favorite Murder. So, if you would like to answer some of the questions that we brought up today, if you want to talk about hayrides, if you want to share your grandmother's Halloween stories, if you know any Halloween stories from the turn of the century, or you just want to talk about your costumes and your trick-or-treating experiences from this weekend, please give us a call on the All Hallows Hotline, 802-532-DEAD. Or you can write us an eeeekmail at itsalwayshalloweenpodcast@gmail.com. Just because calendar Halloween is coming to an end this weekend does not mean that the podcast will be. So we look forward to hearing from you and sharing more of your incredible stories and memories. You can also find us on Instagram at It's Always Halloween Podcast. We are supported entirely by our Ghoul Gang on Patreon. If you would like to help produce the podcast every week, then please go to patreon.com/itsalwayshalloween and sign up for some of our special features there include newsletters, ghost stories, movie nights, and more. We even have a Discord community for sharing all of your stories in real time with your fellow lanterns. So check us out there, patreon.com/itsalwayshalloween, or you can make a one-time donation to our tip jar. Both of those are also linked in the show notes. You can also support the podcast by buying It's Always Halloween merch on Redbubble. You can find that link in the show notes and on Instagram as well. This episode of It's Always Halloween was produced and performed by me, Luce Tomlin-Brenner, with help from your fellow lanterns, including Mr. Paul, Julie, and Claire. Thanks so much for making this episode so special. The editing, theme music, and sound design is by the amazing Pete Burns. Thanks, Pete. Our guest today was Stephen Ray Morris, who you can find on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me at Instagram and Twitter at LTB Comedy and Pete at Mittenberries. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and write us a little review so that other like-minded ghouls can find us. We're also on the NPR One app, so subscribe there and tell Ira Glass that you love us, please. Thanks so much for listening to It's Always Halloween, and come back next time unless you get attacked by a ghost tiger. Rawr!